You're watching the English newscast on Future Television. I'm Yumna Nofal, and these are today's top stories. The Maronite Bishops' Council voiced calls to abide by the Constitution and elect a new head of state without imposing any prior conditions. Prime Minister Tamam Salam calls for an immediate solution to Lebanon's political crisis, saying that the country is facing one of the most difficult phases in its history. And following a spirited first debate between the vice presidential nominees, Democrat Tim Kaine and Republican Mike Pence, supporters from both sides claim victory. The Maronite Bishops' Council voiced calls to abide by the Constitution and elect a new head of state without imposing any prior conditions. During their monthly meeting in Diman under Maronite Patriarch Shaddai, they urged political leaders to be up to their responsibilities. The bishops also called for drafting a new electoral law that would secure real representation in compliance with the Constitution and the National Pact. They did not fail to hail the efforts made by the army and security forces in fighting terrorism. Conferees also remarked the ailing economy condition in the country, in addition to the burden caused by the displaced Syrians and Palestinian refugees. The Maronite bishops lastly highlighted the necessity to commit to a national comprehensive reconciliation that would turn over a new page and reconsider the historic settlement embodied by the Taif Accord. Prime Minister Tamam Salam is calling for an immediate solution to Lebanon's political crisis, saying that the country is facing one of the most trying phases in its history. During the launching ceremony of a conferee called The Advancement of Lebanon Towards State Development, Salam reiterated his calls for the election of a president and the end to the more than 2-year vacuum. Lebanon has been without a president since the term of Michel Sleiman ended in May 2014. And Salam said the presidency is no longer just a power struggle, but it is linked to the country's fate. The Lebanese premier also praised the country for its stable security situation and currency and a strong banking sector despite the hardships it faces. Lebanon has not approved a state budget since 2005 due to political deadlock. The country is burdened by $71 billion in public debt and an annual $4 billion budget deficit. Speaker Nabih Berri is defending the so-called package deal on the presidency, which was subject to criticism from Christian officials, and assured that it does not include any item specifying the jurisdictions of the president. They say that the package deal is over. For me, it still exists, he said. Let them say whatever they want. It's their opinion, not mine. Berri's package deal was criticized by several figures, including Maronite Patriarch Shaddai, Free Patriotic Movement Minister Gibran Bassil, and Lebanese Forces Chief Samir Jaja. Berri had launched an initiative aimed at ending the presidential impasse, and he called for shortening the term of parliament and said that the elections should be held based on the 1960 law should political forces fail to agree on a new electoral one. The UN released stark satellite images showing the most recent destruction of Syria's embattled northern city of Aleppo, pounded by Syrian and Russian airstrikes since the collapse of a U.S.-Russia brokered ceasefire 2 weeks ago. The release coincides with a stepped-up offensive by Syrian pro-government forces that are attacking the city from the south in a bid to penetrate its opposition-controlled areas, where the UN estimates 275,000 people trapped in a government siege. In Geneva, an official with the UN satellite imagery program said the new pictures from the rebel-held areas in the eastern half of the city show mostly destruction, presumably caused by airstrikes. The images from Digital Globe and obtained by the UN agency through a licensing arrangement with the U.S. State Department show mostly formerly blasted and blown up areas during Syria's 5.5-year war, experiencing a great deal of additional damage. Around a third of We have to cut this short to go straight to the Special Tribunal for Lebanon.